Hello and welcome to season 2 of Celia's Playlists. I am so excited because today we're going to be talking to Antoine from MikhMakh. MikhMakh is an alternative metal band from Sweden, and I am so excited to be speaking with you today. How's it going, Antoine?
Hello, hello. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So let's start out with an easy question. Will you tell me a little bit about you and your act?
Well, I'm Antoine Mkhitaryan. I'm a French guy living in Sweden for the past 2 years, and I'm mainly a guitar player and singer. That's what I do for the band MikhMakh. And so the band started in 2018 when I was still in France with other musicians, and has since done 3 albums. The latest one, which I released recently, and I'm rebuilding the project here in Sweden and around the album Flash State. So that's basically what I do.
Very cool. So I think I'm going to start with the first question. So, you're a French guy that lives in Sweden. Like, as someone that has moved, how did you handle having to kind of move your project? Because I'm assuming that you
Huh.
had bandmates in France that you had to, like,
I
now
have.
change around.
Yes, absolutely, and it's a great question because I'm basically fighting for MikhMakh to be a band, and the future will tell me if I succeed or not. But I've always been the main guy,
Hmm.
composing everything and handling all the boring band stuff that needs to be done, like scheduling tours and I mean composing the music, hiring everything, and so on. And the first 2 albums were with French bandmates. I was living in Marseille, southern of France, and then I decided to move here. So the project is still ongoing because I composed everything. So I composed the third album and found the team, and now I just need to find musicians here in Sweden to play that thing that we've done together with my team to play it live. And so far, I have one great drummer whose name is very Swedish. He's called Ulle Solberg, and he's
That
just tip
that's
top.
very Swedish.
Yes.
Very cool. So, how like how I guess we'll take a step back. When you're writing your music, do you write it in such a way that you know that people are going to be able to take that and make it their own? Or are you someone that within your project you like to have creative control over everything? Because as you said, like you were in France and now you're in Sweden and now you have different surroundings, different people, different musicians. Um, Tell me a little bit about, I guess, your writing process and bringing other people into that.
So my writing process has changed drastically during the 3 albums because the first album was right after music school. So after music school, you've been to both the jazz course and the metal course and everything in between. So it's quite cluttered. And the first album is a bit like that. So just firing everything, like saying, I have things to say. Let's do an album. And there's already what I find is the essence of MikhMakh. So the fact that there's heavy riffing and melodic singing, that is always there. But amongst many other stuff that then I cleaned up. The second album, I mean, first album I composed everything. Second album I composed everything, but it was already like more focused, I would say. Like the whole identity of the album was more focused. The only thing that I didn't like was that I took a lot of time to compose very nice instrumental songs, and then I tried to compose lyrics and sing over it. And then when you do that, the problem is that sometimes you compose a very nice piece of music and you don't have anything to say. So then it's like, why did I go through all the time to compose this if I didn't have something to say? So that's why for the third album, I did the opposite. I wrote the lyrics. Then in the lyrics, there's some form of rhythm. Sometimes you have a bit of melody, and I wrote the music around it. And so to answer the theme part of things, I sing, uh, I record the guitars and the bass, I program the drums, and then out of that, what will in the end be so between my demo and the final album, there's a great drummer called Yogev Gabai. He's a session guy living in Boston, so in the US. So and basically, I trust him. Like he's perfect. He's the guy who's recorded the drums for Flash Sale, so my third album. He's just perfect because basically for me, music, if it can be everything, then it's nothing. So I have to compose everything to say this is the game we're playing, and these are the rules, and then you can have fun with it. So of course he's a better drummer than I am, so I will compose stuff, it will give him ideas, and then he's really free to be 100% Yogev Gabai, but in my game basically. So that's how I approach it. When I try to find someone, I want him to just have fun with it, but to understand the vision. That's and it's worked out well for Flash Sale.
I have a couple of follow-up questions with that.
Sure.
I love your process because I'm doing something similar. I'm doing mini shoots here at the studio. I make the
Yeah.
rules and I make the world, so I make like the set,
Yeah.
but the person that comes in, they bring their own style. You know what I
Mm,
mean? So I feel
yeah.
like that's similar to what you're doing with your drummer. So my question to you is, your project is now technically like an international project because you have someone that's like
Yeah.
overseas that is recording drums. How do you kind of like work with someone at a distance to like, have that kind of conversation saying like, here's the world, and now you are now basically a video game character in this world, and you have to make your
I
part.
mean, I think we've all been in situations where you meet someone for the first time and you feel like you've been friends for since forever. And of course, that means that you've had similar paths in life. And I think, obviously, I mean, the technical answer is we do it through the internet.
We
Then
love the
the
internet.
and so to continue the technicalities, I just send him demos. I sent him demos with the drums, my program drums, and then without, so that he can do whatever he wants. Then he sends me uh, demos with his drums on it, saying, "Am I on the right path?" I say, "Hell yeah!" And then he books a studio. I pay for the engineer who will record. I pay for Yogev to do his stuff, and then he sends me everything he's recorded so that I can have everything at home, and I can send my so the vocals, the guitar, bass, and his drums to the mixing guy who's in Israel, so it gets even more international. And he mixes, he does a demo, like a demo mix, saying, "Am I on the right path?" I say, "I've never heard my music sound so great. Do the same for all the songs." And then we go like that basically. Um, but I think the hardest part is not the technical thing, is actually finding the right people. And and it's, I would say from experience, it's better to try. So let's try on one song or whatever. I pay for his time obviously, and if it doesn't match, like if I say, okay, this is the vibe, and it's a ballad, and he does, I say, that's great, but that wasn't the idea. Then instead of forcing something out of the person, just find someone else who gets you. And most of the communication wasn't even, I mean, we talked a lot with Yogev, but we were already agreeing. Like I knew that even without the back and forth and checking, we were just you know just talking about details. The whole conversation was already done from the beginning.
I like that you bring up the point of, if it's someone that's basically not vibing with you and doesn't
Mm.
understand you, that you don't have to do every single thing with them. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes, yes.
Like, because a ballad, especially in the area that you're in, versus like, a heavier song,
Uh-huh.
might cater to a different drummer, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, I have my secret weapon. He's
You have
just
your
great
secret weapon,
everywhere.
but I'm using that as an
But
example.
I
But
agree. I agree.
maybe a mixer is a better example. So like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
someone might be a specialist in doing a certain kind of metal, but
Mm.
then what if you write a pop song one day? Would you use the same mixer? We don't know.
No, no, no. But what's really right, if I can talk about the process of flash sale, is that I studied the process collaborating with one team, and I had to change team throughout the guy. So I changed the drummer and mixer throughout. But just because the vision changed, we went through the process, like recording, doing everything, and getting a finished mixed version of Flash Sale. But it turned out that it took quite a long time, and I moved to Sweden. I traveled. I mean, I did my inner research or whatever. I wasn't vibing with what we did. I understood where they were coming from and that it matched what I was saying. And I mean, everyone got, there wasn't like, I explained, and then, you know, it's like either you release something that you don't stand by, which is a bit of a shame because then, it's part of your catalog forever, or you say, then let's try to find the people who match the vision now, and let's try to do it fast enough so that the vision doesn't change. So that's the whole thing.
I totally understand that, especially from a producer standpoint. So I know that you're the producer creatively for your project, but I end up acting as the producer for things like music videos or
Mhm.
like concept things like, photo shoots, all of the above. And I love that you are really like bringing up over and over that communication is important.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think that that's the most important thing, especially when working with teams. So I'm glad to hear that, like, you've been able to express and, like, move around with your teams, whether it's like from France to Sweden
Mm.
or, like, being able to communicate with your team around the world to create your music. So, like, that's a really cool thing. And, like, I hope that that has been allowing you to develop as an
Yeah,
artist.
I mean, if I can share like one, because we learn from mistakes, and so I'm a loyal guy, but just because I'm like that.
I
I like
am
to
too.
say,
I understand.
but I joke with my wife that I'm a Labrador reincarnated, but it sounds a bit dumb because then you see me like, it's not the idea. But I like the idea of working with the same people over and over. But it's almost like liking the idea of, oh, my first love, I will marry her, and the idea is great. Like, do you want to have it right from the get-go? Absolutely, everyone wants. But it's even more important to be loyal to the right people.
Yes.
So, instead of being stubborn, just find, take the mistakes, find the right people, and then once you find them, then it's super easy to be loyal because it's just super, super fast and so on. But talking about international project, I'm sharing how we put the album together and how we made the final product that you will listen to. But then the whole band dynamic is another thing, because right now what I'm putting together, I need two musicians because I'm doing the singing and the guitar. I have a drummer, so we're just one bass player away from conquering the world. And so far for the gigs we've had, my wife, she's a bass player and she's kick-ass, but she's even more kick-ass painting. So she paints on guitars, and that's what she does. So she's busy enough with that, so she knows that she won't be able to go on tour. So that's the whole thing.
Hmm.
And so, talking about communication, when you are a leader, I mean, when you're doing something like you're leading a band or whatever, there's so much thing that happens behind the scenes, like in front of a computer, sending emails to wonderful people for interviews and this sort of stuff that the band doesn't see. And so I did the mistake with MikhMakh 1.0 to just talk to them when there was finished stuff, like saying, we have a gig here, let's rehearse, we have a gig there, we have a tour there. And it was busy enough so I could do that. But when it gets less busy, then you lose them because it's like, okay, the project is dead right now. And my drummer Ule, he knows it. Like, I keep him, he gets a weekly update saying, okay, so now we've talked about the promotion, we've done this, we've done that. So I say we, but like, the project is going forward here and there, so that they feel engaged, they are part of the thing, and of course we discuss. But like, talking about what goes on behind the scenes to the people who surround your project is very important.
I'm glad you said that because I feel like I work with a lot of musicians and I speak with a lot of musicians, and I think that's the piece that, like, people need to know to retain people in their projects. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Let's take a step forward
Yes.
and let's talk a little bit about your sound. I we're gonna keep going for a little bit on here. So I want to hear about where, like, the influence came from. I know you said that you went to music school, but where does the alternative metal come from in
I mean, the music school is more because you need something to rebel against.
yeah.
Otherwise,
I
otherwise you don't.
That's how I feel about some of my schooling. Like, I ended up going and doing all of these things that school told me to do, and then now I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do before I went to school.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I mean, of course, the education system could be better in France. There's so much more to do, and I think it would end up in a better society. But you can't sing about they and the man if it doesn't incarnate some form of, alienation or whatever. But I mean, joking aside, of course, I always say, like, the bands that come to mind for me are Freak Kitchen, which is a band here in Gothenburg, but they are big also in the US. I mean, they've toured the US. They fit in that thing where it's heavy riffing and melodic singing, and it's a band that I discovered 10 years ago, and I see that I still haven't recovered. Like, it was the band I needed, the moment I needed it, and I said, wow, this is the music. Like, this is of course we're not doing Free Kitchen 2.0, because I'm not I'm not Matthias C. Eklund, so the guy composing and so on, and it's great. And other bands that have had the same effect with me are Seether, Alter
Love
Bridge.
Seether.
Yeah, and Seether, it's has been a sneaky one, because it's because of Lisa. So I talk about my wife a lot, but I love her. I love her to death and beyond. And so she's been. We listen to the same music, but she was into Seether way before me, and it was a sneaky one because when you go to music school, you have this entitlement, or you're a bit cocky. You're like, no, but I know music, and Seether is like too simplistic. And then you go through life and you have like death anxiety or whatever, and you value the honesty and the fact that I mean, they've been doing the same thing for 20 years, and it's always, I mean, it's always the same, and it's never the same, and it's always super honest, and they keep their identity, but they keep renewing themselves, and it's just great. So now I love them, and they should come to Europe more, but there's European bands that should come to the US more. So I guess, we have Free Kids and you have Cedar, so it's all good. But yeah, so Alter Bridge, and I mean, there's many more, because what I find hard with influences is that I see those because they are the ones that are in my music pantheon. That I say, oh, and Foo Fighters are there, and Mammoth, the band from Wolf Van Halen, is there. He just skyrocketed there because I think it's just marvelous what he's doing. But then I have people who say, oh yeah, I like your singing. It reminds me of the guy from Avenged Sevenfold, so Matt Shadows. And then there's the drummer Yogev. He says, oh, I see a lot of System of a Down in what you do. I'm like, I don't know. So, with influences, there's stuff that you think you control and stuff that are just there. And yeah, so everyone sees it differently. But what you're sure of it is that it's metal and I sing.
I love that because, like, you dropped a bunch of band names, and, like, I knew a good amount of them. Obviously, like,
Yeah.
I need to get my European hard rock and metal up there. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look up some of those names, but I love that people are seeing other influences that are their influences in what you're creating, which is
Mm.
like a cool, interesting, fun thing. So I want to hear a little bit more about how do you approach metal vocals? Because I know that, like, metal is a very cinematic space, in my opinion, in terms of like when you hear it, you're not just hearing like, okay, there's a guitar. It's like, okay, what is the atmosphere of this world that I'm currently entering in? And then like you get there, and then like the vocals hit, and you're just like, oh wow, I am being like told a story. So I want to hear a
Yeah.
little bit about like, how you approach writing something like that.
I mean, the whole point of me making music is say it because you mean it,
Mm-hmm.
and play it because you mean it. So for me, it's very hard to sing "This is pointless" because there's one of the lines in one of the songs called "Pointless," and say like "This is pointless." Woo, everybody, no. If it's pointless, you're not feeling it like groovy and stuff. So and so that's where the energy comes from. Obviously, you don't have to blow your voice by by doing so, and there's techniques. And basically, I mean, singing is my first instrument if we think chronologically, because I was in a choir when I was 4, and then
Four.
up until later, but we weren't doing Slipknot. So, but you learn to sing properly, but then you form a metal band with a friend and a bunch of guys that you want to audition, and you say, man, my friend will sing, and the friend doesn't show up at the first rehearsal. So you're like, okay, screw this, I will sing. And turns out that I went from screaming badly to saying, okay, how do I go on tour and do 14 shows, and then I do them okay, like without doing "Hello, we are MikhMakh." you know. So then you have to work on it, and obviously there's techniques and stuff. But I'm not the best actor, so I know that there's a lot of guys who can be super intense like this, but they are super loose and relaxed, and the microphone is doing a lot of the work. I don't. I scream like I'm giving everything, and I'm red in the face and everything, but I'm doing it in the least harmful way. And that's the whole thing where I say like Ule got the gig as a drummer because he had the energy. I'm like, this guy plays it for the right reasons. And I talked quickly about anxiety attacks and being scared of death and so on. The good thing that comes after that is that you you basically replan your life. Like, I mean, you watch it through another prism. You another lens, basically. You
Yes.
say like, no, but what's essential? And and music was there, and Lisa was there. So there's like, I love my wife, I love music, and for quite the same reasons and so on. So then it's like, we're doing this for the right reasons. I feel like, I mean, when you go to the psychiatrist, sometimes they say you need a bigger purpose. You need to serve something, so that you feel like you're doing something. Sometimes you say contributing to the community or whatever. And for me, I'm in that state when I'm creating. I feel like I'm channeling something without getting too esoteric. um, and when I'm playing live, I feel that sense of communion with the people, saying that we are basically playing live is a celebration of being alive at the same time. And uh, and the music is just conveying messages, whether it's I'm angry at the same stuff as you are, so then you're not alone, or saying that I've been sad about the same things as you've been, so you're not alone. Basically, it's just saying that we're in this together for the time that we are together on this earth. So, yeah, quite a long answer, but
I love
basically,
it
play
though.
it like you mean it because you mean it.
I am all for intentionality because so I think that that was like a really cool take on that, and there's a lot that people can like learn from what you just said. But I do want to just get into like one last thing before we conclude our interview.
Sure
You
thing.
mentioned touring. So, I know you've toured Europe. What has been some of your experience being able to go to different countries, different places, and share your music with people?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that the gigs that you expect to be quite shitty can turn to be the best gigs, and the other way around. Because we've been to venues that are luxurious. You go there, backstage is perfect. You go on stage, you have the space for everything, and then the promotion didn't work, and you have 10 people. I mean, it's great. 10 people, you have people to play to, but it's not what you wish if you want to sort of make a living out of it. But at the same time, we've played in a cage in Split in Croatia,
That's
where we
cool.
went there. The venue was in the middle of nowhere, and when I say the middle of nowhere, is the middle of nowhere, even by U.S. standards. and we went there. There was no stage, but there was some form of. I mean, there was. I don't know how you call it. Where you I'm French, so my English is quite poor, but
No, your
you know
English is actually very good. I actually took French in high school. So like I hear the accent and hear where you're like, "Oh, I have to figure out this word." But you're really nailing
thank
it.
you. But yeah, I mean, there was basically a cage. What you stand behind when you're in jail. Those things.
Yeah, like the
They,
bars.
yeah, the bars exactly. So they limit the stage by that, and they close. So when you are playing, you're actually in this cage, and we were like, no one is showing up. Well, everyone showed up, and so it turned out to be like a show where you play. It looks like a Slipknot concert, where you have people reaching out because they are at your same height and so on. So I mean, that's just two examples of it's not what you expect. But what I learned is that communication is key even when you are on tour, because then you are living 24/7 with your bandmates. So that's if your bandmate, it's nothing, but if they tend to do this
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, on a rehearsal, you're like, that's what he does. But then when you're on a tour bus, and it's the third day, which is nothing, when you're out for a month, you're really like, I'm gonna really kill him. So it's the personal aspects are quite a thing to handle, and obviously that's why we're not heading on tour just yet, because we basically, I mean, the way our European tour happened is we did quite a few shows in Marseille, one of them being openers for Free Kitchen, which are
Mm-hmm.
way bigger than us. So that got some attention in Marseille, where it was like, oh, these guys are from Marseille, this is cool. It's like, we've played so many shows here, no one cared, now you care. Yes. So that meant that we got attention from a label, and we got attention from a booking agency who said, we can book a tour for you guys. We said, this is great. Turned out they could find gigs, but we had to book the van and the hotels and everything, which means that we get to learn also. But you learn by doing.
Mm-hmm.
But no one talked about promotion, and so what I'm and so obviously you rely on people locally, and how popular the venue is, and how many people are used to just swinging by to see the new band in town.
Mm-hmm.
And we got some attention thanks to that, but obviously could have been better with proper promotion. So what I'm doing right now is saying, okay, let's promote the album first online. See, we've done music videos, we will do a live recording sometime soon, and more music videos, and try to push that as much as possible to see if there's some interest, and then
Mm-hmm.
go where there's some interest. If we see that there's a lot of people in France or a lot of people there, then it's easier to book venues, saying, okay, apparently in this city we have quite a few, so let's divide that by 10 and book a venue there. So that's the plan basically now.
That's very smart because I feel like I know a few people that have gone on tours, and I know a few people that have planned to book tours. But the people that I've seen the most success, There's this one group, and if their name comes to mind, I will let you know. But they are based on TikTok, and my brain just turned off in the middle of this. But they did a post at one point saying like, "Where are you guys? Like, we're
Yeah.
going to book shows, but like, where are you?" Essentially, so they planned an entire United States tour around those places that their audience said, "Hey, I'm in San Diego, I'm in New York,
Yeah.
I'm in these different places." And they were able to book at larger venues because of that. So I
Mm.
like that that's your plan now because it's going to allow you to kind of like figure out who your audience and where they are
Mm.
before putting any money behind anything like touring, because we both know tour bus, hotel, food,
Yeah.
gas, all of that adds up really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was booking a van, and that's
Yeah.
why. I mean, it's a bit. So yeah, booking a van, hotels, everything you said is right, and that's also one of the reasons why we are three.
Mm-hmm.
That's why MikhMakh will be three, is because you at some point you want to travel with the stage hand that can also
Mm-hmm.
set up merchandise while you are just changing backstage, so that you don't go sweaty to do the pictures and photo and this sort of stuff. um you can do the sweaty ones. I've done them, and people are like super happy. No, it's okay, it's all good. You are in some of the bands that I'm in here, because I'm also a freelance musician, so I hop in to save the day. And I played in an 80s band, 80s themed band, and their stage clothing is way more preposterous than what I'm used to, because I'm more for like, yeah, all black and we play the music right. And I went like that to the gig, and they say, "That's right, that's good, but keep the leather jacket, remove the t-shirt." And like, okay, yes. And so after that, we went straight to the merchandise. And so I took all the photos like with my sweaty torso. and, then and I mean, people liked it. But, so at some point you will want to have that stagehand that can help you out setting up and then for the merch. And also at some point you want to be able to know that the sound outside is great. And, if your stagehand is not already a photographer, you want to travel with a photographer. Well, if you want to keep costs low, you want to fit in a van. So 6 people in a van, that's the maximum you can fit. So that's the whole plan to keep it manageable so far.
Well, it sounds like you put a lot of thought into this, and that's awesome. So I'm going to ask you the last question. We went a little longer than I planned, which is totally fine because this has been such a fun conversation. But my last question that I ask every time is, if someone was starting in music now, what would be
Mhm.
your piece of advice for them in whatever area of, music that you would like to talk, whether that's like, producing or touring or just like starting in general? What's your piece of advice?
I mean, admitting that again, I'm in no position to give advice to anybody, but I
That is
have.
not true. You gave great advice this entire
But,
time.
but it's
So
okay. I mean, with life experience, you can learn stuff. So, with that disclaimer out of the way, everyone says if you're in it, do it for the right reasons, but that goes without saying. And even if you're not in for the right reasons, you will go away at some point, because it's really a pain. Like, you have to work through this. So the only thing that will keep you in it is because you're in it for the right reasons. But I would say I tried to be well known through YouTube metal covers. I tried to be known through YouTube gear reviews, because I tried to get attention however I could. And I think it's okay. But I would say that what I'm doing right now and what I feel I could have done earlier is stick to what you do best, and that what you think, this is what I want to do. Even when you dream of yourself like playing in a sold out venue, do exactly that from the beginning and the best that you can do it. And that way you can hopefully be known for that. Because the worst that can happen, there's way worse things that can happen, but the worst that can happen to an artist is to be well known for something he didn't want to do.
I agree with that. I actually went through a similar thing because I did the gear reviews. I did the YouTube gear reviews, and I tried to do funny things or like sketches at the beginning, and then I realized like I love talking to
Mm.
people. Interview show, good thing for me. Trying
Yeah.
to have perfect statistics on camera gear and making sure that every single number is correct, which you probably did with audio gear as well. And it's like I
Yeah.
have to make sure this is perfect. I should have just did stuff like this at the beginning. And I'm glad that you bring that up because some people just like need essentially like the permission to start. Like they need to
Mm.
give themselves the permission to start. So I think that's really cool that you know, your advice is basically like get into it for the right reasons and do what you want to do from the beginning. And that testing things is great, but if
And
you
you will
stick to
figure
your
it out on the
guns, you'll figure
way.
it out. Yes,
You'll
a
figure
hundred
it out on the
percent.
way, because again, you start, if you are honest to yourself constantly, you will evolve, but the path is way cooler than trying to pretend here and there because you think that that's the way to go. No, no. Look inside and go forward.
I love that. So Antoine, where can people follow you? Where can people find you? Give me like the quick spiel on all of that.
Well, I mean, the easiest thing is to look up MikhMakh. It's written down there somewhere on Spotify. If you have, I mean, the album is 45 minutes, and if you have 45 minutes of your life to listen to this music, I think you won't regret it. But if you don't have that much time, just listen to the first few, and at least you get an idea. And obviously, if you look for the band and my name on YouTube, we have music videos and more things that will come out. And through that, you have the links to Bandcamp and wherever you can support the band. But first things first, go check the music. Your curiosity will already be like a great reward, and then you can go down the MikhMakh rabbit hole if you so desire.
I love that. We love the rabbit hole.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Antoine, for sitting down with me today. This was such a fun conversation, and
I agree.
you've made me reconsider the length of my podcast episodes. So this was
Yeah, I'm
so
sorry,
fun.
I talk a lot.
No,
but
no,
thank you
this
so
is
much
great.
for having
I
me.
had so much fun. Like there's been a couple people that come on here, and I'm like, yo, wait, we could go for another hour, but we're not going to do that. But thank you for sitting down with me today, and you guys at home, make sure you're following MikhMakh, and we'll be back for the next episode. Bye, guys.
Bye bye. Thank you so much.